at right now. We got
different. So there's a lot of sound, there's a lot of noise.
Why is everybody in slow motion?
Without further ado, let's bring on Chris. Further ado. So without further ado, let's bring on Lori. Welcome back, everybody. It has been a while. It feels extra long, H. How have you been?
I know. Happy New Year, everyone. It's pretty much the end of January, and it feels like the year hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, well, if you're in our neck of the woods in Ontario, you are probably buried in snow. It seems to be every day that we get a little dusting. The mounds of snow are getting pretty high. I've been posting pictures of my mother plant on X, and somebody commented that thing would have looked so beautiful outside. And I'm just like, no, it would have looked wilted and frozen and sad. So
Yeah.
if you are lucky enough to live in a climate where you can be growing outside right now, I'm envious of you because, yeah, I've just been hammering the vitamin D drops to get that vitamin D that I would normally like to get from the sun. So,
Yeah, it's
Anyways.
been a pretty rough winter, that's for sure. I went on a trip for 4 weeks away into the hot season, which was really nice in South America. And then I came back and it was 40 centimeters of snow, and it's been like that nonstop. I haven't even been able to start my seeds yet because I spent my whole weekends taking care of snow and all of my spare time so far.
Yeah, and you don't need to start a seed anymore because I actually took a clone of our favorite pheno, which we're going to get very in-depth, in detail with today, because this is going to be a kind of a part 2 of our how to make your own genetics, your own seeds. We've got Scott Golem and Mike 420 Things in the background. I'm going to bring them on very soon, but Mike, went through that whole process in that first video that we talked about, crossed a few different genetics and sent me a couple seeds. And we're just going to catch up on that and then go into more detail about, what happens when you do, make your own genetics. You got your own seeds now. Obviously, it's like an F1, meaning there's lots of variety with the 6 plants that I started from Mike, 3 of each strain. And we'll go into some depth. So let's get Scott and Mike on here. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Welcome, guys.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Oh, it's going really well. Yeah. Mike, you must be really excited for this because it's come full circle now. You've seen, the baby making process, the baby being born process, picking a favorite child, essentially. And now how do we clone that child and, keep that golden child kind of going? And of course, we've got Scott here to teach us all about that.
Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, Scott's a professor at Niagara College. He teaches in the commercial cannabis production program. And Mike here is a content creator, old friend of ours at 420 Things Grow. If you are not following him yet, please do that right now.
Yeah, and I think we're live on Mike's channel too right now, unless
Yeah,
mistaken.
I threw it up there. I think I did it right.
Perfect.
I'm a little leery on that every once in a while, just get some cross promotion. But yeah, I got to say thanks to you, Kurt, because you're the one who you were the first one to start growing them. There's a few people that have grown them, and you were the first one to really catch some heat. So and then my daughter only goes to school a couple hours from you, so we met up over the holiday season, and it was great. Gave me some snips in a container, and they made the 4-hour drive home. I popped them every once in a while to give them some fresh air, and they cloned really well. So I was happy with that too. So.
Well, it wasn't the first attempt of getting you a cutting from that. And I will shout out Plants in a Box, great product. But one thing I underestimated was how cold it is inside the container that I had my clones in. And this is actually interesting. Plants in a Box is founded in Waterloo as well. So I actually ordered online, and they were nice enough to refund my shipping, and I just picked it up from from the office. So it's just like a little plastic container where you can take a cutting, put it in there, clone it, ship it off. It has like a little LED light. But I didn't have enough insulation in the cardboard box. And of course, we've had this really cold winter. So by the time the clones got to Mike, I think one of the cubes had burst completely from being frozen, and the other one was hanging on to dear life and didn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were both a little wet lettucey, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that sucks. I think this winter has been pretty brutal. It would destroy any clone unless you put some heating element in there or something hot at first, or maybe stick it inside of a really hot Yeti. You would be, out of options there.
Sometimes it works as those little heat things you use for gloves. So they're warm but not super hot, so it adds just that little bit of heat to keep it from freezing.
True.
a small lunch kit that's insulated, a cheap one off of Amazon. You put one of those hand warmers in there, zip it up, and ship it. And apparently, it stays good for. It only took it's like most of the stuff from you to me only takes a couple days, right? So it wasn't even that bad. I think it got hung up though for a weekend, didn't it, by mistake?
Yeah, the problem was like when I ordered it, UPS said 1 day delivery. So I'm like, okay, that's great. Like it should be fine because ideally it'll be in a truck that's been running for a while. But I mean, I have seen the back of those, like it's not exactly like a heated cab. So maybe you got to find like a food service delivery company that does like cold and hot delivery, or something that's temperature controlled. Scott, like when you are doing like your research and all that stuff, do you ever have to send clones to people that are kind of outside driving distance, or is it mostly seeds, or everything's kind of kept in house?
Mostly seeds. When I was doing kind of breeding for some of the large LPs, we would ship them out to Quebec and Brunswick and places like that. And again, the temperature is always a weird one, right? You got to get some sort of heating pack in it, especially in the winter. Usually put it in those kind of styrofoam coolers is what I would ship things in, specifically just to try and hold as much of that heat as I could. But it always gets tricky when you're trying to ship things, especially with the weather. The summer or the winter are both kind of extremes that don't like clones very well.
And just to give everybody a little bit of context here, we're talking about clones from a plant that Mike created the genetics of, you could say, sent some samples to Kurt. Kurt grew it, took those clones and sent them back to Mike. Now, I
grew three of them, took the best one. So it was a clone from one of the three seeds, but continue.
There we go. So I was also very fortunate to get, what did you give me, Kurt? 2 of the plants that I think somehow we already knew they were females, or we didn't. And I also just got lucky that they were females. I can't remember.
Yeah. So I only had room for 4 plants, and all 6 ended up being female. And I only knew that because I vegged them so long that they started throwing out pistils. So I ended up killing, before I even flowered, the freeze-dried donuts number 3, I call it. The number 2 is the best pheno, but I only had 1 clone of that at the time that you needed a clone. So I kept that, turned it into the mother, and then you'll get that pheno this time. But I think even that number 3 that you got turned out to be pretty crystally. So definitely some differences in those F1 seeds, but the characteristics kind of still showed themselves.
Yeah, no, the ones that I got, I ended up getting 2. I kept only one of them, the one that was more vigorous. And then it went through the whole cycle. I was really busy preparing for this trip that I went on for 4 weeks, and kind of just let it do its thing in the tent. I didn't train it very much. I didn't defoliate it very much. And I just figured I'm going to extract this after. But I harvested it just before I left on this trip and let it dry while I was gone, and came back after like 4 weeks. And I got to say, Mike, it's pretty amazing, this stuff. It's really, really good. Oh, yeah. Put it to the test. And they turned out to be small buds again, because I didn't go too crazy on the grow. I just kind of let it do its thing. And what I realized as well is that I left my lights on 50% the whole time, and that's what also caused the buds not to grow really big. I could have gone up to 80, which is typically what I do on this light before it starts getting really hot. But they're stacked, man. Like whenever I go pull a bud out of the whole plant, it's just so sticky. So the concentration and everything is really good. And for everyone who doesn't know, the first phase of this episode, you could say, we did a while ago. I don't know, what, 6 months ago already, Kurt, or maybe even longer than
Yeah,
that.
it was a while, and Scott was nice enough to join us for a few of the lives in a row. So I actually re-edited the How to Make Your Own Genetics video so that it was a bit cleaner and just focused on the important information that Scott gave us, because obviously we get off track a little bit in those videos. So you can find that one on YouTube. I will link it in the comments in a little bit. But yeah, to give you guys in the audience a little bit more context, I can show you the mother plant that is 2 weeks away.
Yeah, and
now.
that first video is when Mike learned how to create his genetics. So technically, these plants that me and Kurt are talking about are the results of that initial class there with Scott.
Yeah, so this plant was stuffed in a 2x2 for as long as I could possibly keep it there, because I had something else in my flower room here. So it got massive because I knew it was a really nice pheno. I just didn't have the heart not to try and flower it. I was very, very, very worried about the demands of a plant this big. Luckily, I'm in cocoa, so I figured, as long as I'm set up a drip irrigation and really monitor to make sure it's not drying back too hard, I should be okay. So yeah, she's made it. This is about week 6 of flower, shot on an iPhone, so it's not going to do the justice, but man, frosty. You were over a couple days ago. And the reason I kept this particular pheno is because the first seed I grew at the end of week 3, when I do my defol, every single sugar leaf was covered in trichomes. So by week 3 of flower, I think I got rid of all the other clones, because I just kind of assumed this one's going to be the one I want to keep, and I'm glad I did, because yeah, it's stunning. So yeah, Mike's on the search for a male now, and Scott, we actually wanted to, I guess this would be a good time to talk about kind of the first topic is like, hunting for phenos to make an F2, and then kind of hunting for the males versus doing a conversion of a clone of that female to kind of self it. So if you want to kind of jump in there and, provide some insight on how that second stage would work going to an F2 or an S2.
Yeah, so typically what you're going to do is when you're looking kind of hunting that F1 kind of group of plants overall, what you want to do is look for the characteristics that you want. Again, you're not necessarily looking for kind of the highest THC, the highest things you want. Basically, I look for the bud structure that I'm looking for, kind of the amount of like bud to leaf ratio. I want kind of branch strength and things like that are in there. And also, if you're going kind of between different plants and you're going to take one seed from the F1, another seed from the F1, do across that way, that's where you got to almost think about, if I have this plant that I really like and this other one has these traits, if I mix those together, I'm looking for something kind of somewhere in between. So it gets a little bit kind of more thinking a little bit more outside of the box, I guess, that way, on how these are going to cross into each other. When it comes down to choosing a male, that's where it gets a little bit trickier. So with males, because you don't see the flower specifically, you don't really know what is passing in on the flowering side. So really what you're going to go for males is, I typically look for vigor first and foremost. Any seeds that are growing out that are kind of really runty and laggy and scrawny, you don't want those, because it's going to pass on those weaker kind of traits to the kind of next plant in that generation. So looking for kind of strong branching, depending on what you're growing or how you like to grow. If you can look at kind of apical dominance, so if it gets that Christmas tree look, if you're going to go in kind of a sea of green or a high density type of grow, or you're looking for something that has a bit more branching, if you're looking to kind of do more training and like scrogging and things like that with it.
Very cool. Scott, I'm not sure if you can try using your mic that's on your phone. It's just really not clear, but for
not coming through.
It's coming through. It's just a little bit hard to hear. So just to reiterate that, when you're looking for the male, you want vigor, kind of strong branches, because obviously the male's not going to put out buds and give us those other characteristics. So I told Mike that freeze-dried donuts number 2 that I got, it was a very short plant, and because I did so much training, I would have liked to see like tighter node spacing. Like that was one of the things that we could maybe improve on that. But at the end of the day, like if I could just, get seeds of that exact pheno, that would be great. And you're obviously not going to get that exact same profile if you find a male and cross it with that female, because it's going to take half of the male and half of that female, or some mix in between that, right?
Now, Scott, how do you stabilize a genetic? How, like, because you can keep crossing it with, say, different males or different females, and it's always going to be kind of like a new cross. But when you look at all of your seeds, they're going to have a lot of variability. So how do you stabilize a genetic over time?
Can you guys hear me a bit better now or no?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. I tried switching something around on my computer here. So, okay. So really stability comes down to, you just need to breed kind of deeper and more crosses and keep going kind of like further down the chain. So you'll typically see with your F1s, because you're just having kind of your 2 parents, they're going to each give basically 1 gene from each parent as a simplified cross. You have the gene A from parent 1, gene B, so you have an AB. So you get usually about, I'd say, typically somewhere between 4 to kind of 8 phenos that kind of show up if you grow a large population of those seeds. What gets really tricky that I think a lot of people do, that they don't breed a lot further. Most commercial varieties, they go to about the F1, sell the seed, and that's where it kind of stays. But when you start going to the F2, that's when things go really kind of crazy. So it's kind of like where the chaos gets introduced, I guess you would say. Because at the beginning, when you have that F1 cross, you have, again, 1 gene from each parent. So it's a pretty kind of stable-ish cross. But once you start getting into that F2, that's when you see all those recessive genes start showing up. So you start seeing a really crazy variety of like really weird traits come out. And from picking things, that's where it gets kind of really cool. That's where you see the really cool purples and kind of weird oddball things that start showing up. But you will have like very little consistency in the F2 round of seeds. So that's where you basically take your F2, pick the traits that you like out of those, and cross that. And basically, as you keep crossing kind of those generations down further, usually it's around the F5 to F7 that you start getting a lot closer to kind of a stabilized genetic form. So again, when we look at, even if it takes, say, 3-4 months to do a cross, it takes a really long time to get down to that F5, F7 level where you really get a stable genetic. And most people aren't going to really wait that long and keep breeding that same way down, especially on a commercial level, because the names aren't as cool anymore, right? It's like, go for the new hottest cross. So you don't see a lot of kind of genetic stability in cannabis right now.
So to clarify then, when you get the F1, which is crossing parent A with parent B, then to get the F2, you cross who to who now?
So you can do it different ways. You can do it as you take 2 of the F2 seeds, or F1 seeds, sorry, and cross the 2 traits that you like best to kind of mix those. Ideally, there's similar traits or things that would complement each other. You don't want to go with something that are really opposite, because then you're going to have even more variation in that kind of next generation. But you can also go kind of the opposite way, where you take, say, 1 seed that has a trait that you really like, and then cross it back to the original parent as a back cross to try and stabilize those things. So typically, if you're going to do that, you're looking at something like, say, a trait like, I really like this bud structure, so the parent has that and the offspring does. So maybe if I cross it back to the parent, I can stabilize that a little bit faster.
So the F2 could either be a cross between 2 sibling seeds, or crossing 1 seed back to one of the parents.
So typically, if we're looking at kind of nomenclature wise, the F2 would be, if we take 2 of the F1 seeds and cross those together, gives me the F2. Okay. If I were to take the F1 seed and cross back to the parent, it would be considered a back cross, and would be kind of a back cross 1 as opposed to an F2.
Okay, gotcha. So it's really about choosing then the best male and the best female from those F1s, crossing them together. That gives you the F2, which then you said is a bunch of crazy stuff. Then you get 2 things that are stable within that F2, a male and a female, you cross those. That gives you the F3, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So with males, it gets a little bit tricky, right? It's a lot easier to breed sometimes with feminized seeds, just because you can kind of control that a little bit. But there is, in case anyone's not familiar with this, a compound called ethylene that basically, when we look at kind of sex conversion in plants, if we're taking a female and I want it to be male, I'll spray it with something like silver thiosulfate, and that will take that female, throw out pollen sacs, and that's how you go the feminized seed route. Ethylene works the exact opposite. It basically increases ethylene production in the plant. So if you spray a male plant, it'll flower like a female. So if you have the space, you can kind of pre-select male plants by seeing what traits it's going to show up in the female kind of side of things that way. Again, it's that extra step. But if you're going to breed down the male line, that's the best way to select, because you really know what those bud characteristics are that are going forward. Otherwise, you're just stuck looking at kind of that plant structure and the vigor.
Are those seeds that are produced there all male seeds then? Not they're melanized? Is that a word?
Yeah, so that's where it depends what you're crossing it with. You know what I mean? So yeah, typically I wouldn't necessarily use it so much on that side for kind of creating seeds. Again, it depends what you're crossing it, because it's going to become a female or now, right? So it'll accept pollen. So it depends what you're crossing it with.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd use it mainly just for kind of looking at what that characteristic is, as opposed to using it in a breeding kind of sense.
So I want
a lot more complicated than I thought it was.
Well, and even to Kurt, Kurt's been he's been, oh man, this thing is so great, it's so great. I'm like, Kurt, you got to tell me something bad here, man. Like, stop floating my boat here. Like, let me hear it. And that's when he told me about, the spacing, and I look at the clone that he gave me, and I go, what are you talking about? So I showed him a picture of my clone that I've been growing from the clone, and it's been a month, so it's starting to go. But the spacing is way different. Like, it's close. Like, I really like the spacing. So why like, I guess my question is why would Kurt see something in the seed version and his clone version than that I'm seeing now, other than maybe my environment, my light, my fertilizer? Is there something to an older clone, whether it's, now it's the one I'm doing is probably the oldest one, right? Kurt's are all younger than mine, right? So is that something that's to that? Or
typically what you see those variations come out are kind of more environment. So I always tell people, if you're breeding it, breeding, especially on the selection side of things, you're selecting for whatever environment you selected that in. If I select something in a grow tent and then throw it out in my backyard, it's probably not going to behave the same way at all, because everything's completely different. And I know commercially I've seen that even just indoor facility to indoor facility, it's like these plants look like completely different plants sometimes. So a lot comes down to, like, your environmental control will kind of adjust your internode spacing, kind of the EC that you're running at, or fertilizer concentration. You can really kind of steer it, and even just the different lights that we use, unless, different brands of lights will grow plants slightly differently depending on the intensity you have. And there's just a whole lot of factors that play into that.
Okay, that's what we were assuming too, right? But it was just something I thought, hey, let's bring it up and talk about it, because again, it's different. Like, there's no doubt about it, and it's, I mean,
yeah. I mean,
so to me, it's go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask Scott, if you were able to increase your light, maybe Mike's light is, let's say, closer to the plants, and he's able to keep his environment cooler, that would automatically push for shorter internodal spacing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because you're kind of limiting that stretch.
And I can tell you that what I've been doing, and it sort of translated to the clone, because all of the plants that I started, so I have a medical license in Canada, and I'm allowed to grow 98 at a time in my house. So I started 60 seeds for a hunt, and I got it down to 30. And what I was doing is I was pumping the light to it. I was pumping the fertilizer to it, the kind of stuff that I like to do. So I was giving it the high EC that my regiment does, decent light, because I wanted to see. And sure enough, there was a few that were like, well, guess what? When I had 60 of them, I was able to get rid of all of those. So I know now that I think I have 24 of the one type thing. And I'm now moving forward with those, and they're all taking the fertilizer, they're taking the light, they're taking everything great. So a little bit of a stress testing, I guess, like to see if they're going to handle it. And it seems like these ones did. So
that's perfect. Yeah, one of the other things that I think is really important that people don't do is a bit of stress testing on plants, especially if you are looking to kind of breed really deep. That's one of the things you want to do. You want to apply like a slight kind of environmental stress. So let the heat climb up a little bit higher than you would want to, because that's where you kind of start finding the instability, right? So there's certain ones, especially as you start crossing, especially in the feminized kind of realm of things. You'll see that they'll start throwing out kind of pollen sacs sometimes, start hermaphroditing a little bit if you get certain temperature increases, sometimes even certain dry downs. If you get a little bit of a drought stress, they'll throw those out. And then you kind of see it sometimes with as your EC climbs a little bit high sometimes. So those are kind of the three things that I would, if you're going to try and breed further down, just give them a little bit of a stress test, because then you can you're trying to weed out the bad guys, really is what it is in all of this. Is what's the optimal plant that is the most stable going forward. You don't want to be like, oh, it's a great kind of thing, and then all of a sudden it hermaphrodites like crazy because you pass that stability on down further and you just wasted a bunch of crosses in time.
Yeah. And what type of rate, like, because this is the first time I've done breeding, and I've seen very many like feminized plants, and I always look for herms, and I get them from time to time. What, like, male plants and female plants and these crossbreeds, is there herms there as well, or is it a lower amount, higher amount, same amount? Like, how does that work?
It's pretty much, I'd say it all comes back to the starting genetics, right? Whether it has that hermaphrodite instability kind of built in. So I know even on a commercial level, there's certain plants that I've crossed with that you get a huge amount of hermaphrodism no matter what if I cross with a specific plant. So that, again, once you've done a bunch of crosses, you can start to weed out those parent plants and say, hey, there's some sort of instability that you don't necessarily see in that first parent plant, but it's carrying something that you don't want.
Cool.
So it sounds like the selfing path would probably be the easiest if we've got this golden child that is the freeze-dried donuts number 2. So like what could we expect if, say, we reversed one of the female clones, pollinated, the unreversed clone? What kind of variations would we see compared to that original seed?
So typically when you do like a self plant, that's where you're going to see kind of those recessive traits show up. So the ones that don't show up as frequently in a population. So again, that's where you typically see like those purples is a really good kind of example in my mind, is that you see a lot of plants that, they're mainly green, but every once in a while you get those purple ones. And I've had some really beautiful self versions where all the leaves stay green, but the bud is just this bright, beautiful purple. And then from a visual point, it's like, okay, I want to select that, but it's a recessive because it's not coming out as the most frequent kind of trait that's there. So selfing really allows you to dive deeper into kind of those nuanced traits that are in those plants to select for those to carry forward.
And then that would be an S1, S2, S3 instead of the F nomenclature that we use.
Yes. So that's where the nomenclature gets a little tricky and confusing sometimes.
Yeah, and it gets more stable as you go down. So if we got to like an S7, everything would be pretty much, every seed would come out almost like corn, right?
Yeah.
So would you be better off to do it in a non-feminized form, get to that F2, pick out those crazy ones, and then go to F3 and then F4 maybe, and then self it then, or self that one like the Kurt cut and self it right away there and travel the feminized route instead of, and then jump back over at that point and mix it with a male, like which one's better?
It really depends what you're trying to do with the plant, right? So again, if you're breeding for, say, purples as an example, you know what I mean? Going the self route makes sense. If I'm breeding for more structure and other things like that, you kind of want to breed it with other things and try and get those traits stabilized before you kind of target things. So the breeding is kind of one of those weird ones where it's like you got to pick a target and try and go towards that. And the more targets you have, the harder it is to kind of get all of those traits at once. So it's easier to try and kind of focus on a few things as opposed to everything at once.
Man, the family tree on these lineages could get pretty crazy. It's like an F2 back cross to one of the parents, then self, then blah, 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 right? Like,
yeah.
No, Mike, I think maybe selfing is the route to go, because I have a clone of a clone of a clone that's in my veg tent right now. It's not, showing any very like negative traits. So maybe we just hit the jackpot on that first go. I popped 3 more females of that same strain to see if we can beat it. But man, let's get to selfing it, Mike, because I don't have STS on hand.
Yeah, neither do I. And that STS stuff, I'm not. Listen, not that I listen. If you do it properly, I get it. You're going to be fine. But I know that we were going to talk about a topic, and maybe this is the way to bring it up here. With the silver, with the colloidal silver and the STS, and then there was one that I had some YouTube channel. I don't even remember which one it was, but some guy was talking about something that really caught my eye, because I know the spraying is, you got to spray it and you got to spray it a couple days and you got to spray it some more. And then you got to make sure you got the proper stuff. You don't want to inhale this stuff. Right. So, with this one, it was a growth regulator or something like that they used in apple trees that blocked it the same way. But this gentleman was talking about how, well, you just water it in. And I was like, wait a minute, a water in self like that? Why isn't everybody doing this? You know what I mean? And he was really excited about it. And I know I brought it up to you, Scott, and you did some digging into it. And let's talk about this, because this is super exciting.
That's the AVG you're talking about, right?
So yeah, AVG. So the chemical, I guess the name that's used commercially is called Retain. So it's typically used for spraying apple trees, pear trees, things like that, commercial fruit production, really. So what it does is it's basically going to, again, block that ethylene pathway that would cause fruit to ripen and fall off trees and increases shelf life, things like that. So I kind of looked through the literature briefly there to see kind of who's done kind of scientific trials on this. And really all I'm seeing is kind of more on the foliar spraying side of things. The rates are looking somewhere between kind of 200 to 500 parts per million, or 25 to 75 micrograms if you're going to weigh it out, is kind of what people are using. From what I see kind of throughout the literature, it's saying that you don't get quite as good of a conversion rate as you do with the STS, if we're going to compare them side by side with each other. And you do get a bit more phytotoxicity or kind of plant damage with the AVG in general. I didn't see anything about kind of the watering it in on kind of the scientific studies. So it's one of those things that, being a research person here and at the college, that I'm like very interested in being like, oh, we should just set something up and try it out and see what happens, right?
Yeah, and listen, I'll find that video and I'll make sure I get a copy of it to you. It's in my history. I just got to go back and find it and see it. But the guy that was presenting, whether he published it or not, who knows, but he was presenting a bunch of stuff that I went like, what the hell am I looking at here? This is above my pay grade. You know what I mean? But the way he was talking about it was a little bit different than what you just said. And I think that's, he was leaning more that the watering in was more effective than the foliar. So listen, I'll send it to you and we'll get a little bit more information. If you ever try it out, I'm interested to see. And like I said, it's just cool, new stuff, man.
It's always cool seeing new ways of doing things and kind of testing what's working better, what's not, right? And again, it gets hard when you look at some of these chemical treatments for things like that, because they aren't necessarily readily available chemicals to people at home. STS, you can get it, but it's not the easiest thing to get your hands on typically.
Yeah.
I did find quite a few colloidal silver listings on Amazon. There was one STS spray that I saw on Amazon, not cheap stuff. Didn't have a ton of reviews either. So that was one of the questions we had, is what is the best product / brand to use for creating that feminized
does it matter, let's spot what brand it is, or is it pretty much all the same?
It should be pretty much all the same. I've actually found because typically when you're buying like the silver thiosulfate, it's basically silver nitrate crossed with sodium thiosulfate is how you make it, those two chemicals mixed together. So typically you buy it from kind of a lab supply kind of thing, and they have lab grade. What I found from different kind of sites is that, especially on the silver nitrate side, they sell it for tissue culture, and it's usually about a quarter the price as if you buy it from a lab grade kind of standard. So it's more cost effective if you're going to do that, and it's a little bit easier to get your hands on through tissue culture type of companies that sell different reagents there.
Very cool. This is the link to the colloidal silver that had the best reviews, if you guys want to check out that as well. So Yeah, Mike. Oh my God, how many different ways could we take this breeding project, man? Like like when Scott was kind of going through the options there, what stood out to you the most is kind of the way you want to take it.
Well, listen, I'm selfing is cool and all, but so before we get into that, I have one last question because remember, maybe this is a good time to bring up that video that I sent you, Kurt. So Scott,
Which one?
I really haven't done much growing of regular seeds, so I'm a bit of a noob here. So I have plants that I started them and they're probably, I think they're a month and a half old right now. And they've both have been veg. I flipped some of the ones to find the male for Kurt's cut. And they've been in flower for about 5 or 6 days. I have zero sign of anything, no balls, no hairs, no nothing. Okay. I have the other plants that are a different cross. So one of the father was the same, Dead by Dawn. It was a holy moly that I crossed with everything. And I crossed it with another one, and that one is showing signs in week 6 of flower, like massive signs. So I sent Kurt, I did some
This
like
is the long video that you sent?
yeah. It's just you
Okay,
can
I'll
skip
pull that
through it
up.
in a couple spots. There's it's hard to get with the microscope and the phone and trying to record it or whatever. But you could clearly see that some things, and again, you could just skip through some. Like I'm trying to get, like I said, this is. Did it come sideways? That shouldn't have come sideways. I don't know. Oh, it did come sideways. That's crazy. Anyways, so that one. Definitely a female pre-flower, right? Like,
Yep.
And then other ones, these ones are so strange that it's crooked. But the other ones are definitely balls, right? So again, why do some I guess obviously I don't think it's the father genetics because I'm seeing one that has it and one that doesn't. It's probably the mom that I crossed with, right? Is that where that comes from? And is showing it this early? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? Like what's this about?
It kind of depends. It's weird. So when you're breeding, especially when you start going down to say maybe you're looking at your F2 plants, you want to make sure that you get plants that flower at the same time, so they get triggered at the same time. I have seen different commercial plants where it can stay in veg and it'll throw out pistils just randomly the whole time that it's in veg. It's just kind of it's not actually flowering, but it looks like it's flowering if you're looking at kind of a mother plant. So it is one of those like weird things that does get passed down genetically sometimes. And it's just something that you just kind of got to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, so it's not good or bad either way. It just
not necessarily good or bad.
Is.
It's just what it is. Certain plants will just do
Just
this
very
all the
proud
time.
of its gender, I guess.
Yeah.
Wants to scream it out. Oh man.
And then the other video that I sent, Kurt, you have that one too. So this was another one that I found, and then we can move on to the other topic. But this is one that I found.
All right, here we go. There's 1, 2, and 3.
It has 3.
Each one of them, all the way to the top so far, has 3.
Audio too.
Yeah, it does have audio on this one. It sounds like I was sending you this in the text message. I forgot that it had audio, but every note is 3, right? Like you can see it, and it's like I've seen this before in some self plants. I was the first time I've seen it in some regular regs. Like, but is this? Listen, more growing spots, the better, right? Like, is this something I should breed with or not breed with? Because it's not. It's I took the clones. I still have it or whatever. But again, even the clone has 3, right? So.
Yeah, it's a weird trait, right? And again, whether it's positive or negative, you don't really know until you kind of flower it out. And I think a lot really depends on your density that you're going to grow these plants at too. Because if you have that extra leaf in there, you know what I mean? You're going to have extra defoliation, or it's going to take up kind of more of that space and shade out other things. So if you're going to high density, I would say it's probably not a positive trait to have. If you're going to go got a lower density, it may not have a negative impact in that respect at all. The interesting part is that it's still kind of in that juvenile state because you can see all the branches are coming out side by side with each other. You'll see it kind of as plants age, they will start offsetting those fan leaves and they won't be side by side anymore. And it'd be curious to see if it still retains that once it gets out of that juvenile state or if it kind of just stays that way indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Skytown seems 1 out of 40. Familiar with it. Sorry, I was just saying Chi-Town here in the live chat said doesn't always pass along and usually grows out. So I think I have seen this before in a couple of my plants and then goes
Yeah, I've
away.
seen it in
But
female or
interesting.
feminized seeds for sure. I just didn't know, like, hey, but it makes sense, density and stuff like that. Like with me growing in the cups, man, like I want to keep, and that's usually what I'm looking for here, right? So again, to keep it that it nice spacing in the cups because that's the way I want to grow. That doesn't mean it's going to be great for everyone, but again, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think with a triple like branch per node like that, if you top it early as if you were doing a main line, and all of a sudden you have a triple main line, and then that's like Scott said, less dense way to kind of split up a plant like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That last mutation that I grew that had the super flat stem, I know now to just kill that because that bud ended up sucking. It was like all stem and just like, yeah, it was
I got one of those
very
too.
cool
It looked like
visually. Yeah.
it was like a tape stem, it was just not very good at all, and it was really wide and really thin, and it was like a measuring tape, and then has all these buds around it, but you just couldn't break them off. You had to like pull them off of that branch. It really wasn't practical.
Yeah, not what you're looking for in a female per se. So yeah. What else did we want to talk about, guys?
Oh,
That's
Scott,
the funny part when
Any more
you're
questions?
pheno hunting, right? Is that you get excited when you start.
Oh, sorry, say that again. You kind of cut off there a bit.
Oh, sorry. When you're pheno hunting and you start all these seeds, like the hard part is everybody wants to keep them all. But you got to be kind of ruthless and be like, this is weird and I don't like it, kill it. You know what I mean? But you're always like, but what happens if I grow it out? Especially in a home space where it's like, they're all your babies. You're excited to see whatever it is. And it's very hard to be ruthless and start killing plants and be like, I need to select early on based on vigor. And this one's not quite as strong, so kill it.
Yeah.
I'm down from 45 to I have 22 in here now that it could be male or female. And I took clones because I took that. I was able to get rid of 20. I can now take 20 more and still be below my 98. So I've got a full dome full of all of those in there. And my thought, just as the home breeder, I want to like you said, I have cut out a fair bit, but I know what you're talking about. I'm like, ooh, anything that was, I'm like, nope. Short one's gone, crooked gone, whatever. But these ones now, it's like, man, they're all growing really well. They all have their own little thing, right? So I'm going to let my plan is to then now flip these. I top them to take the clones, right? So I've got very nice, tall, stocky, good clones. And I'm just going to let it rebound for a few days. I got 4 tops on each plant in my small cups with the drippers. I'm going to flip it and let's see what happens. And then I know each cup is numbered. I got a map now on a piece of paper which each clone is in the dome. And then I figure I'll do that and go, well, I can try a little bit of each one, take a bud off of each one, dry it, and throw the rest in the wash and wash it because that's what I do. And then go, okay, 1, 2, 17, and 35 all taste good, or maybe this a little bit. And then the next run is where I'm going to now take the male that I also have a clone of, right? I'll just take the males out as far into without it actually bursting and getting rid of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a lot of data entry and keeping
is.
track of stuff. I can just picture you with the chocolate, map of which, on the insides have that flavor. Man, it's just there's an infinite number of crosses you could make and so many different ways. What were you gonna say, H?
No, I was before we started talking about this, I was going to ask Scott how the project that you're doing with pretty much the sterile plants is going, right? With the female plants that don't get seeded.
And only need 6 weeks in flower somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going really well. We actually we did some commercial variety tests outdoors with them, and they performed really, really well. So we're kind of working on the next round of seeds and kind of pheno hunting some of those, and have a couple of other commercial partners lined up to see how do we test these in a couple different outdoor environments. And because I think really seedless cannabis, that's where it shines, right, is in outdoors. Indoors, you hopefully don't have seeding problems. If you do, then you got other issues. But in the outdoor space, that's really where I think this is going to play out long term. And it's been a really kind of cool thing. You see a lot of different phenotypes that come out, and things that are positive, some that are negative. And again, it's really just trying to select for that environment that it'll grow in long term. So that's the hard part, especially when we look at even just growing outdoors across Canada. Things growing here compared to, say, Quebec or New Brunswick or anything, it's going to be completely different. And you need to really try and select for those specific climates and places that they're going to be.
Very cool. And for those of you guys who don't know, Scott is developing this strain that the females, they are seedless. They can get as much pollen as you can put on top of them, and they don't produce seeds. And they also flower in 6 weeks versus 8 or 10, getting the results done a lot faster. So, Scott, with the 6-week flowering time, how many crops could you get outdoors in Canada in 1 year? Could you do like 3, as much as 3?
So the problem with outdoor is really you can't control the photo period unless you have some sort of greenhouse, right? So it's going to be 6 weeks from when it flips to flower that you can harvest. If you're indoor, you can control that a whole lot better. You know what I mean? So you're getting, say, 6.
So those are not out of flowers. Those are photo periods.
They're photo periods, yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's a little bit tricky. But again, when we start looking at growing outdoors, because depending on where you are, say somewhere like New Brunswick, where it gets colder a whole lot faster than it does here, they need to finish a whole lot faster. Otherwise, you kind of lose those plants. So it's just kind of catering to the environment that it's going to go in.
Sounds like a big benefit for both indoor and outdoor growers. Like you can flip them faster indoors, and then that safety of doing outdoors. And yeah, that's really cool stuff. Any other cool updates that our audience might be interested in hearing from your world?
We're working on how we kind of get these seeds and clones out to the commercial market. So we're talking to a couple of nursery companies that are looking to hopefully release some clones maybe in the spring for us, you know what I mean? So people could potentially get these genetics going forward, as well as some different kind of seed ones that we're looking at. Other than that, I've been kind of working on a couple other things, just again, for the smoking at home crowd. The THC knockouts aren't a huge thing, but I think going forward, when we look at other cannabinoids, I've been kind of breeding down lines where I took commercial varieties that were very high in THC, and I've been knocking out the THC so that the precursor, the CBG and things like that, that it's making, I can start funneling into other cannabinoid pathways going forward and see what happens with that. So one of the big ones that I'm kind of looking at right now is canflavin A and canflavin B. So they are produced in the plant in like about 0.01% concentrations right now, so very, very low. But it's thought on a pharmaceutical level to be about 1,000 times more anti-inflammatory than aspirin. So when we look at pharmaceutical value of these plants, that's where we're starting to see these chemicals, but we can't produce them in high enough amounts to really test them out in any kind of clinical way right now. So I'm trying to figure out, is there a way we can change these pathways around and start upregulating these other kind of medicinal benefits that these plants are producing too?
We're gonna have to protect you from big pharma, Scott.
Yeah,
saying this stuff too loud.
Because when I hear it, I go, "Wait a minute! I did do all of that, do it all, and then let me know where to get it, because that's what I need."
Yeah, no, that's really neat. I wanted to ask you about the seedless one. What F number are you on right now to get them?
So currently, we've been going down different pathways. So it gets a little bit weird with the seedless ones, because as soon as you get to that F1 cross, it's now sterile. So what you have to do is kind of breed down the other lines. So in this case here, you take a tetraploid, so it has 4 copies of the genes, mixed with a diploid, a normal kind of plant that we have that has 2. So when they cross together, it gets 2 from one parent and then 1 chromosome from the other, which gives it 3 as a total, which is what makes it sterile. So you can't go any deeper once you have that sterile plant. So what you have to do is kind of breed in the parent's side. So we're a couple generations deep on kind of both sides of the parents, and then cross in to see what's the impact of that and how does that kind of play out, and can we increase more stability. Typically when you look at kind of corn and things like that, you have very deeply bred, say F7 of each parent, and then when they cross that, you get a very stable kind of offspring in that F1. So we're trying to get to that stage right now and see what we can do there.
Very
And the
interesting.
tetraploid, is that a female or a male that you guys are using, or can you do both, or what it is? Because I had some tetraploid seeds that I tried, and I crossed them with this male pollen, and I got very few seeds, like very few. Now the plant had some issues, and like wasn't the greatest. It was probably the worst plant in the whole thing. But is that something you're seeing with tetraploids? Are they a little bit more finicky, or like,
Yeah.
and which one do you use, male or female?
Yeah, so typically I've been working for the most part down female lines because then I can take a commercial variety that I know works well already, and then make that into a tetraploid and kind of work it through that way. Plus, when you're limited on space, it's easier to kind of cut out the males as much as you can. So at least I'm not wasting space going forward in the time to kind of figure out, oh, these ones were male. You can do it with kind of PCR testing and things like that. So there is kind of mini PCR has a little kind of tiny kit that you can do. But again, it's just not the most cost-effective way of doing things for most people. That if I can stick with the female lines, I just know that's not an issue. So just better space utilization, really. But you do see with the tetraploids, when you do a cross, you don't get nearly the same kind of seed set that you would in a kind of normal cross. You get far less seeds in general. And that's where you really start seeing that instability on which plants cross well together and which ones don't. Some will produce quite a few seeds and other ones will produce, just a small handful, like 10, 20 seeds. So it's really kind of finicky there.
Yeah, that's what I definitely seen. And I know everyone was talking about earlier about, oh, my plants, stuff like that. Just so everyone's aware, that's how many seeds I got off of one plant in a bud cup. So that is a lot of seeds. So and this is where I was kind of, hesitating with growing these out and then doing it in a second wave. I was thinking, maybe I can do cut out one step, but then I remembered, well, I needed to flip the males earlier, right? I'd have to go back and look at the notes from the previous one, but I'm pretty sure your suggestion was to do the males first, give them some time, then flip the females, so you're at that perfect time. So that's why I said, you know what, I'm going to grow these out. I'll take one extra step.
Yeah. And it's crazy how many seeds you can get out of a plant. I think people underestimate a lot of times, like it's not like you get a couple seeds, you get a lot of seed when it does well and you get it really dialed in.
Oh yeah.
Mike wants to give, I'm going to call it a surprise giveaway. Do we want to limit this to Canada, Mike?
No, just Canada or US, and we can do two winners.
Okay, we're going to do two winners of a mystery gift from Mike. That's all I'm going to say on the record. Go #pheno, and we will draw two winners who will get something from Mike, possibly related to today's chat, but cannot confirm or deny what that would be. Could be a t-shirt, who knows?
Surprise.
So we'll do two from that, and then H will do a BudTrainer giveaway after that. Do you have anything specific in mind? We just dropped the bud tape. Scott, I don't know if you've seen our new bud tape, but it's a grafting tape, so we could put every pheno from Mike's seeds that I grow onto one stalk and just have a plant with 6 different phenos. Or if you're new to training and you break a branch, it's very effective on healing that stuff up.
So like
it also it held the paper towel together good on my snips for the trip home too.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, worked out. We can keep the same hashtag, whoever is already there, and we can just run it again, Kurt, so people don't have to type it up again.
Yeah, cool. What do you want to give away after we do the two?
I
like the gift cards; they're easy, but it's up to you.
Was it a bundle that we did last year? One of our typical giveaways.
It ranged. Sometimes it was just bud clips. Sometimes we did. I think we did the bud tape last time because it just came out, and a pack of bud clips with that. Gift card allows them to buy whatever they want.
Yeah, let's do a gift card. Let's
okay.
Our $30 gift card to whoever is the winner.
All right, so the first two winners will be from Mike's prize, and then the third winner will get a $30 BudTrainer gift card. And then because it's a gift card, I don't have to limit it to the US and Canada. If you're outside the US and Canada, you'll just have to pay a flat rate of shipping. Exciting news, we are expanding heavily into Germany. We have a new distributor who is going to be getting our products into a lot of the retail stores in Germany. I'm sure most of the Germans are asleep by now, sometime in the middle of the night, but if you're rewatching this at a later date, there you go. All right, draw number 1 from Mike's surprise giveaway. Oh, default behavior. Congratulations. Thank you for tuning in. So all you have to do is, I mean, you can DM Mike directly, but if you want to email hello@budtrainer.com with your shipping address, name, email, I'll flip that to Mike. And he will send you the prize. We'll go for the second prize for Mike right now. Shout out to Can in the chat. Was nice to meet the guys there at Vegas. Golden Roberts 4624. Do you know him, Mike?
Well, listen, there was one day, there was some giveaway, and this Golden Roberts, man, had a horseshoe, because I think he won like 3 times in the same freaking day. It was insane. Everyone's like, it's rigged, Golden Roberts. Yeah.
What again?
I forget. Yeah, it was so funny. But I remember Golden Roberts, that's for sure.
Maybe it's something to do with StreamYard, because we have had repeat winners quite a bit. So I don't know what algorithm they're using to do this random draw, but same instructions to you, Golden Roberts. Just email hello@budtrainer.com with your shipping address, name, email. I'll flip that to Mike. So we have our 2 mystery prize winners from Mike drawn, and then the $30 gift card will go to, drum roll please. We have CB One Arm Garden.
All right, so congrats!
I think 3 new winners on our show. Somebody yelled rigged in the chat.
Well, this Golden Roberts just said he won $3,000 on 420. That's when it was, man.
Oh, wow. He won $3,000. Wow. That's a nice
on multiple different ones, and then they were like, no more repeat winners after this.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm happy for people because sometimes when it rains, it pours in a bad way. So if it's raining money on you, I'm going to be happy for you instead of jealous, because hopefully that'll happen to me one day too. CB-One Arm Garden, again, hello@budtrainer.com. Just email us your details. Because I don't need your shipping address, just your email address, and I'll send you the e-gift card so you can be shopping for stuff as soon as tomorrow when I check our emails. Guys, this was super fun. I came in hoping to have a simple plan for what to do next with freeze-dried donuts number 2, and I have left more confused than ever with all the options. It's kind of like going to a restaurant and there's like 8 different things you want to try. And obviously you can't order 8 meals. So I guess we'll just take it one step at a time, H.
That's right. One step at a time. I know. No, but this was great, guys. I appreciate your coming again, Scott. And Mike, it's always a pleasure to have you here with us.
Yeah, love being on here. Thanks for having me.
And it's an interesting day for YouTube lives, because I actually saw, I think AC Infinity's got a live starting right at 7 o'clock with Chad Westport and Mr. Toad on how to make feminized seeds. So if you guys want to keep going on this topic, jump over to AC Infinity and say BudTrainer sent you, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, have a great one, guys. It was a pleasure.
Have a good one.
Peace out.